Hello, and thank you for checking out the OpenStory project. OpenStory is a full-stack React Native mobile Azure Functions server app that kind of works. It demonstrates a lot of techniques that I've studied over the last couple of months that I feel I have some contribution, at least an understanding to share and look forward to doing in the future. It also is a proof of concept for using Redux and redux-sagas in a shareable library format that could be used in a React web app as well. But without further ado, let's get the mobile app up and running. So I'm going to be using Terminal, iTerm, and Vim. So I'm going to clone down the app. I'm going to check out a branch that I have that has some breakpoints added that we can step through later. Make sure to change into OpenStory. And now that should work. And we'll install our npm packages, get Vim up. So after our npm packages install, we'll want to run React Native link as well to link our native components. Android, I know, is not working as of now because of some linking issues, but getting that working is right on my to-do list after writing to-dos. So another key thing I want to point out to getting the app running is that it's important to run the npm start script manually. You can usually count on just running React Native run iOS, and that will run the npm start script for you, or you can launch it from Xcode. But we are using 12-point configuration. So in our npm start script, we are using better npm run to pass some environment variables into our node environment for React Native. And these are being used by Babel. They're being compiled in our code by Babel and passed through, so we could use this to set our different environment variables. But to keep moving along, something else that I wanted to mention is kind of how, or discuss, is how the design evolved. So when I first started working on the React Native mobile app, I started here at Native Base. So Native Base has a set of components, and they also offer a set of templates. I have a marketplace for templates that use those components. So I purchased a couple of these, and it got me a start. But here, trying to get the app looking right recently, I've discovered material design. Learning about it more and reading the documentation that Google has, offers a great standardized set of techniques for getting things looking right in a way that's usable in mobile and in web. And there are mobile and web paper components available. So in my code, you'll see some code that uses React Native paper, and then some code that uses the native base components still. So while that's building, so what I want to cover a lot is Redux, but I don't want to take I'm not going to be able to teach you Redux in this video, but at least my goal is to not make it any more confusing. So Redux, one of the great benefits of Redux is separation of concerns. So it makes your code much clearer to the concerns it addresses. I believe it makes it testable, which is something that I'm looking to prove out soon as well, another thing for the to-do list. Something that makes it hard to understand at first is all of the hops that that single dependency requires. So in our Redux code, we'll have our reducers, which is the only place state can be updated. They also define the domain for state. Our actions are often referred to as action creators, where it's the only place for business logic. Sagas can also have some business logic. That's where our API calls are made. They use ES6 generators for better async handling. Our action keys are really just a dictionary of action names. They're often referred to as action types, or for people who say action creators, they'll refer to them as just actions. Our containers are the only code that should be aware of other Redux code, and we've separated our API calls. So just to kind of show you real quick how that structures out before we jump into hitting some breakpoints. So here in our Redux code, we've got our action keys, which are just going to be a set of strings keys. We've got our actions, where things can happen. Something that I want to point out real quick, the difference of these actions is that story change is currently the only action that I have that's not connected to a saga. In most React apps, you're going to have more actions that are driving your visual state. And that's something that this app needs some more development on. So here's our reducers, where it's going to define the domain for our state. And you can see that a lot of these stories loading, categories loading, a lot of these state a lot of these variables that will tell you drive your look for your state need some development. But what the app does demo so far is use of the sagas for the API calls. And here are sagas. So let's go ahead and jump in and start debugging some code. So we've got our mobile app running over here. So here I'm already logged in. I'll log out and show you the login process here in a minute. But because I'm logged in, I have the ability to create a new story. Even if I was logged in or not, I would have a list of stories. So here I've got let's go ahead and reorder my screen so I don't have to slide around even more. So here we've got our Chrome debugger. So here, if we come over, so we want to make sure that by pressing Command D, you can set remote GS debugging. We have that already set. And pressing Command R will cause our app to refresh, so we can hit some breakpoints that I wanted to walk through for you. So here is where our Redux is configured. Here we're setting our Saga middleware. We're also setting up to use persistent storage, which I'll show to you working here. But we have, for our user information, we have encrypted persistent storage. This same persistent storage code can work on the web as well. So next we should see our sagas initiating. So as I said, our sagas are a separate pipeline. So here we need to make sure that we fork any sagas that we want to run. So here, this ES6 generator function is going to say, okay, anytime that we get this story request action, let's start this off and run this next code. And I guess we'll run a couple of times. Okay, so here in our stories list container, so our stories list is a container because it is aware of our state, it is aware of our API calls, as compared to a component, which should be dumb. Our container is smart as to our state. So once our component mounts, we are going to dispatch our get stories list action. So that should catch in our actions, which, because this is a saga call, it's really just going to proxy on. And then our saga says, okay, we've taken that action. We've seen that the stories get request action has been submitted. So let's fork our stories get fetch generator function, and which will make the API call and then wait for the results of the API call or a failure. Okay, so I was hoping it would hop into the API call, but we'll add a breakpoint here after. So it's got the response from the API call with our stories, and it is going to update our state with the stories that came in from the API call. State is immutable in React, so it looks a little strange until you become used to deconstructing, assigning, or using object assign to update your state, because the object that is state is not editable. It needs to be overwritten every time. So, so that will give us the view of what we've seen here. Now let's go ahead and create another story. So another story created, another story created. Let's add an image. We've got our great library here. Okay, now because we're using persistent storage, we can refresh this whole app, and our new story is saved into state. We are using our actions and our reducers. So this is the one action again that doesn't connect to, that does not connect to a saga, a story change. So if we get our breakpoints back up, when we change a story, we'll hit a breakpoint on that story edit action, and then that is updating into our state as well. So story change is updating with that edit. Something that you should really have on an action that's going to confirm that it's going to happen that frequently is a debounce. So that's another thing for a to-do list, is adding a debounce to that story change. But it's nice that if we leave the app and come back, the story that we started will be there. So let's go ahead and create this new story. So it's created the story. One bug we have here is it's missing the name for some reason. An issue that I have on the server side is it setting to lowercase some of the property names when it serializes, because of it doesn't like it coming from Mongo. I need to clean that up. But if I refresh, then I should have the correct story name shown. We can click in and see another story created. You can see the profile. So I'll show you a login as well. So if we come to our code and we go to our routes, so it's using React navigation, which could be a whole nother video as well, because it took a little bit of time to wrap my head around, and then using it with Redux is another technique that I think that I have that's demonstratable. But let's go ahead and show what it'll look like if we don't have. It's been a while since I've used Vim this much, so I'm just going to hand put in my comments, even though I could use T comments. We'll write it. So now we should get a view. If we refresh, we should get the unlogged in view. So if we needed to log in, we can log in with Facebook. And confirm our login. And we are, so now we have this JWT token set in state. Let's throw in a debugger on our render just so we can show that we do have a JWT token in our states. I'm sure we'll have to hit a bunch of other breakpoints too, but that's okay. Okay. So here's our sagas that we're getting started up. Okay, so this props.jwt here, we can see our whole state. And that's being defined by this map state to props, which will fire every time our state changes. So that is the current state of the React Native app. I do, something that I'll be looking to show in the future is a demonstration of the Azure functions as well, and really a full stack walkthrough. I definitely would like to take a deeper dive into understanding Redux and redux-sagas. But as much as getting this app working nice and clean is something that I'd like to do, the bigger thing that I'd like to bring in is a working React web app that shares this same Redux code, the same API calls that can be packaged. One of the great potential benefits that I've always seen with React is doing more with less code. That makes it easier to collaborate, makes it easier to move fast. So that's definitely my goal. And what I'm looking for here is just a start to demonstrate that, and that's something that I'll be working on into the future, and I'm glad to talk about and collaborate on with others who may be interested. So I'm going to stop the video here, but definitely look forward to doing more videos in the future and getting better at it. Thank you very much for your time. Bye.